Hi, thanks again for joining me. I'm Kate McKay, and I'm taking this really powerful time in our lives to interview some really amazing people that have come in and through my life recently and also in my far off past, to talk about how we can not only survive but thrive through this time. And today I am really excited to introduce and interview Claude McKnight. And Claude McKnight is the creator and founder of the amazing 10 Grammy winning band called Take Six. I'm thrilled to have you here, Claude. Thank you so much for coming with me and meeting me here.
Thank you.
It's so
my
awesome.
pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so glad to see you. This is amazing. What I'm loving is just the level of intimacy this is, how often and how rare that we actually sit across someone like this and really give each other our time and space. So I'm really honored to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking me to be here.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about, and we sort of, again, this is all on the fly, but what we thought would be a good title for this is learning to pivot on the fly in the music business and arts in general. So Claude, what's up? What are you, how are you managing this time? You just got off tour, and what's life looking like for you now?
Okay, so here's the thing. We were very blessed to be on the tail end of the tour that we were doing. So we finished 25 of the 27 shows that were scheduled.
Oh.
So we're kind of in a different boat than a lot of artists who I know are just about to go out on tour.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've had to cancel upcoming things that we, none of us really know when we're going to work again. But again, like I said, we're blessed. And so what am I doing now? I'm literally hunkered down in my apartment in LA because as of last night, they basically said we can't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So a couple of days ago, I bought a bunch of food. I bought exercise equipment. I pretty much have stocked up on the movies and the series that I'm going to be watching. And I have my guitar here that I'm going to finally learn how to play.
Oh, it's awesome.
So, yeah. So, I'm sure as this interview unfolds, we'll go into a lot of the things that, for me personally and for people that I would like to share with, how we can get through this.
Right, exactly. So what does the word pivot mean to you? And when else in your life have you had to really pivot in powerful ways to land you here?
That's a great question. So for me, pivot literally means, you're going in one direction or a couple of directions, and you have an idea of what that means. And then either unforeseen circumstances or something like that comes into your focus. And you have to say, wow, either I can keep going the way I was going and probably not get to where I think I want to go, or I need to pivot and turn and find something new, something different, something that's going to take me in a direction that hopefully gets me ahead of whatever that groundswell or wave or whatever that's coming behind me, so that I don't get swallowed, and I think that we all find times in our lives when we have to pivot. And so, to answer the second part of that question, wow, I've probably in 57 years had many pivotal moments.
Mm-hmm.
One of the very first ones was when I had left my group that I started, which is this group. This was many, many years ago, and I made the decision that I needed to go home because I needed to take care of some things. Home at the time was Orlando, Florida. And long story short, an audio engineer from the place I used to live in where the group was still thriving basically reached out to my mom, of all people, and was like, I understand Claude is going to go to audio engineering school in Orlando. And she said, yeah. He said, well, why not have him come back up here? And he can be my apprentice and learn under me. And it was a non-paying job, but it at least would have had me back in proximity to where my group was. At the time, the group wasn't doing anything professional, but that's what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
I moved from Orlando back to Huntsville, Alabama, and literally within a year, we had our record deal.
Wow.
So that was a huge pivot point for me to where I could have kept on going the direction I was going in Orlando. And who knows, could have maybe thrived as an engineer and all the other things I wanted to do. But I knew the love of what I had was so strong that I decided, no, I'm not going to go this way. I'm going to go this way. into this other thing. And that other thing has sustained me for the better part of 32, 33 years.
Right. And so what is it like? And I was a theater major. It was the one place where I feel that it taught me the gift of presence and the appreciation of art in all its many forms. And so what is it for you to have a life where you've lived your purpose in your passion in your profession?
It's amazing. And so anytime I'm brought in to speak to colleges, universities, high schools, junior highs, I tell them, find something you're passionate about, and then realize your uniqueness and build those things up to the point to where no one else can do what it is you do. Don't follow. Don't try to go with the herd or anything like that, because there's a couple of things that can happen. You can be like everybody else and become successful and then hate doing that. Or you can find yourself in the situation where you stay true to your uniqueness, and who knows, you may get a huge audience or you may not, but you can work forever being you.
Yes, I love it. Oh, and so what I love about the word uniqueness, oh boy, everyone, is so many people, much of my work as a coach is really stemming around the fact that people fear their uniqueness, that they're afraid to embrace their uniqueness. And wow, I absolutely love that description. So what would you tell somebody who's huddled up in their home and with their Cheetos and their, in their Netflix? What is the pathway into embracing your uniqueness?
Wow. The pathway is just that. You have to start walking, start moving, because you're not going to find that pathway just sitting still. Try things, experiment, fail at some things, fail at being you until you realize who the you really is.
That is the best. That's a quote right there. Say it again.
Oh, now I don't even remember.
No, fail at being you. Keep trying something and then fail at being you until you discover you.
Yeah, because here's the thing. A lot of times in whatever it is that we are, we can be a painter, we can be a sculptor, we can be a musician, we can be, any line of work, and not really know how to do that well as far as who we are, because we're constantly changing and figuring out, who am I really? Even 30 some odd years in, I don't know who I am as a solo artist because I've been singing in a group forever.
Wow.
So it's exciting when I explore those things. And there have been a couple of times where I've done things, solo shows, where I'm like, oh, that's amazing. There have been other times where I'm like, whoa, that didn't quite work the way I thought it should. But it's just like, again, let's think of like a sculptor. You start with this big rock or whatever. You have an idea of what you want it to be, but you start chiseling at it. You start breaking it down until it becomes this masterpiece. The thing at the beginning wasn't the masterpiece. It wasn't until you had to do the hard work of getting in there and knocking this out, moving this, starting over, sitting back and observing, until you whittle it down to, that's me. Right. And I think that's what being unique really is.
And where did you channel, or how did you discover, have the courage to be able to lean into that?
Wow, another great question. I think it's been a work in progress. So I can honestly say this isn't something that at 18, 19 years old, I was amazing at. And even at 57, there are still, starts and stops. So I look at it as it's a journey. And if you can say to yourself on any journey, hey, I'm just going to keep going forward, and whatever I encounter, I'm going to figure out how to use that. Then that journey can be really, really cool. It might be a really terrible experience or a pothole or something. And then you say, wow, why did I land in that pothole? What can I use from being in that pothole? Those kinds of things. And always keep it positive. Keep it in a way where you're learning. So there are actually, and I used this word earlier, failure, but there are no failures. You just learn. Just keep learning from all these experiences. So I don't know if I answered the question properly. I think I'm still learning. How to lean into that. But you have to be honest with yourself. I think that's where the leaning in process really takes hold, because once you're honest with yourself and continue to be so, you can say, man, I'm really not so good at this. I'm much better at this. I can give more energy to this. I had more passion for this, you know, those kinds of things. And then you start melding those things together. And I think you really find you.
So we're at ground zero in a lot of ways. A lot of us, all of us,
Mhm.
right? And so aren't we given this amazing gift to be able to begin that process in a really authentic and organic way?
Yeah, here's the crazy thing, crazy in a good way. This is a level playing field. You
Right.
know, I've got 10 Grammys, but what does that mean right now? I can't go out and work.
Right,
You know, my
right.
Grammys aren't going to all of a sudden materialize to 5,000 people being at a show because it can't happen. You know, so I'm saying that to also say to the upcoming musician or artist or student or whomever, go wholeheartedly into pivot mode and say, and figure out what is my passion. Even for me right now, so I can't work out in public. I also teach voice lessons. You know, I think I'm a good person when it comes to listening and talking. And so I do interviews just like this with other people and stuff. Those are passion projects for me. You know, do those things make money? Some of them do. Some of them might. Some of them may not. But again, didn't we just talk about refining and figuring out, you know, how to weave in and out and lean into things? Try stuff.
I
That's
know,
the
I
great
love
thing
that.
with the internet and with the way technology is now. You can try anything.
Right, exactly. You sure
Yeah.
can. And
Hmm.
having the courage. So how is it then? And I already talked about this a little bit, but I actually, on a personal level, did you have somebody, a mentor that encouraged you? I mean, as a man, because I think it's a big deal when someone steps so fully in their passion as you have. Was there someone that cheered you on, or one particular person, or someone in particular in your history?
I would have to say I've had many mentors over the years. I think my first mentor, even probably unbeknownst to him, was my grandfather.
Mm.
You know, watching him growing up in Buffalo, he was the choir director at the church. And of course, he's, you know, my mother's father and my grandfather. And he just had a way about him. And he was so sure
Mm.
and so amazing at what he did that growing up as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year old or whatever, I got to watch this man do things that I said to myself, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to lead people. I want to do that in music some kind of way. And then having really amazingly supportive parents, you know, and not just supportive in the ways of, Claude, you're really doing good, you can do this. No, they create an environment of great music in the house, of after school programs that I was able to go to and be a part of and stuff, and always pretty much leaving me to my own devices as far as trying to find out what it is I liked. They didn't push certain things on me. You have to do this or whatever. I mean, they were certainly stern when it came to making sure that we got our lessons and stuff in school, because you got to do that anyway. You
Yes.
know, that's very important. But I think the other parts of it are just as important. And it's unfortunate that so many of the kids who came after me and continue don't have those kinds of opportunities in public school, especially. You know, because
Right.
I think the arts and music and things of that nature are so important to development.
Right. Well, I think so too. And I think I tell people this all the time is that my parents shipped me off to performing arts high school when I was a junior in high
Hmm.
school. It saved my life. You know, in
Mm.
many ways, it saved my life from, you know, a family with a lot of drugs and alcohol in my family of origin. And so for me to be able to be thrown into a situation where Claude, I was so out of my element. I thought I was all that in a bag of chips at age 15. And all of a sudden I'm surrounded by, you know, going to listen to women play the cello at Symphony Hall and going to the Boston Ballet and listening to someone play the flute. And all of a sudden I was washed over with beauty and talent. And I was humbled. And
Mm.
in a beautiful way, an extraordinarily impactful way, because it made me, I was at ground zero. You know, I got a D- in composition on in a written piece that I thought was awesome, right? And I'm a writer. So you can imagine, I'm like, I tell people that, listen, I got a D minus. Okay.
Right.
That was what I got. And that was in composition. The idea got a B plus, but the composition was a D minus. So I'm bringing up that story because I think that's what we're talking about is what is it that lights you up? And then right now, this is the time to muddle it through. Something else that you said, I thought that was really wonderful, is that your parents created an environment for you. And with what they gave to you as a gift of great music and expectations, and they gave you form so that which you could thrive. And I think that that's speaking to people who are at home with children, or even in any form. What way are we creating this new kind of like what we quote as isolation, but could actually be a beautiful feeding area for creativity?
Yes.
Because great idea comes through creativity. I built a multi-million-dollar gold company, but it was because of my creativity. It was because I was able to dance on the fly. It was because I had the gift of listening that theater provided me. So I just love that you brought that up, and I really appreciate you sharing that.
Awesome. And and whether or not that's in your own home or your friends or whatever, seek that out. Because I think the human spirit is always seeking for some kind of experimentation and creativity. And sometimes we don't know where to find it. And sometimes it's not provided in our immediate surroundings.
Right.
But I think we will seek it out in one way or another. Sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's unhealthy, but we will seek it out.
Right. I have a really important question because I do work a fair amount with men in my coaching business. And I'm writing a book for men around machismo and self-care and all these awesome things. There is a large wave of men that are all of a sudden going to be temporarily, or we don't know, restructuring their life. So that their work is what they define themselves as their work, and maybe in finances or whatever it is. And all of a sudden they've lost that. They've lost sport because now that's gone. So what would be your recommendation for men to pivot right now, Claude?
Wow. This is a deep
I'm
question.
sorry, but that's a good
No. It's a great question because it allows me to dig in deep and think as well. You know what I would say is, I think that men in general have always come to the party in ways where we don't want to feel or be vulnerable. And I think that has served us well in certain ways, in certain instances. But I think it always limits us in our ability to be able to pivot,
right.
and or deal with stressors that are outside of our realm and of influence, So what I would say is we have to learn to be more vulnerable. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to rise out of that fear with a sense of purpose and new creative ideas. And do not isolate yourself from other men and women who have ideas that can help. Because we can tend to be, I've got all the answers, I'm a man, I've got this. Get behind me, I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
It's like when we're not able to, or that has been taken away, we may not have had those tools already, or certainly not sharpened enough to be able to immediately, swashbuckle our way into something new.
So awesome.
So learn to be vulnerable and learn to not be afraid of that. And treat it like it's less than being manly.
Right. And I am oftentimes a conversation that I had with a lot of the guys that I interviewed for an article that I wrote recently was, that word vulnerable in a lot of ways has negative connotation. So I was sort of playing with words and languaging with an attorney, and what about the word disclosure? How do you feel about that? Because sometimes it's like, I'm not comfortable disclosing, or I'd like to disclose that. So it's giving more power to your vulnerability in a way that I think is actually about healthy boundaries. And I think that I, as a woman, are looking for men to be able to model what it means to swashbuckle, and to be able to have more courage to be more courageous in all areas. And so I think women need men to model their manliness in their highest form. as much as women need to model that same thing for men. And I think that
Sure.
this is a powerful time for us to build deeper intimacy and having conversations, because like, look at this, Claude, like, again, I've said this in all my interviews, when are we ever this face to face with somebody, like full on eye to eye, heart-centered positioning? And it's beautiful and it's deeply intimate and it's, wow, I'm really thankful that we're.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing of what I know I just heard from you as far as men are concerned. No matter how we end up looking at it, whether or not we use the word vulnerable or, however we decide to frame it, it just has to be honest. Because honesty can help everyone feel safer. Even if it's something you don't want to hear, if it's honest, you can pivot in a way that is like, okay, I've got a set of circumstances and data that makes sense for me to do this, as opposed to someone, I've got this, there's nothing wrong, such and you're like, hold up, I don't know if I can trust you.
Right.
And when that happens, that's not being vulnerable. That's just, so men have to learn how to do that, because I think from like our parents' generation, I think men wanted to keep everything inside. My dad's like that. He's very closed off. And so consequently, I don't think that he's ever really gotten over the awkwardness of learning how to be vulnerable. That doesn't make him a bad person. It's just he never really learned that.
Right.
Right. And again, you also said something else. Balance is important. You don't want to be so vulnerable that you can't get up out of the bed.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Weigh everything and don't panic, but be present, be honest, and move in the direction that pivot is showing you.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Because, the bottom line is we want to avoid getting hit by that cosmic 2x4, because that's really ultimately, like you said, it's like the wave is coming, right? So you can look behind you and keep running, or you can be like, turn around, face the fear, and create action steps to meet and greet that. And I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
So is there any advice that you, as an amazing 10-time Grammy Award winning musician, that you would like to provide, since we do have the whole concept of being a musician in this changing time? Is there anything that you would like to share as far as tips for musicians or artists or people coming in, and what they could do now to approach
Absolutely.
the time?
Absolutely. I know it's, what's probably first and foremost in all of our minds and hearts and pocketbooks is, how do we monetize whatever is going on? So I get that part of it. But at the same time, continue working on your craft. Whatever that means. If you're a writer, keep writing. If you're a player, or like I said, I want to learn how to play this guitar that's been sitting here for months, do it. Because I can guarantee, as you continue to be creative in your craft, it will spur ideas on how to make all of this work better, easier, and in a more healthy manner. It's kind of like, how can you do more at anything if you've already got a ton of underlying stuff that you just can't get out from under? You know what I mean? And maybe to drill down a little bit more on that, I think sometimes when you're able to do certain things that make you smile, or that give your heart a lift, all of a sudden now you're jumping onto the next thing instead of dragging yourself up to it.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes it's our attitude on how we deal with things that gets us to that next step. So that would be my advice to everybody, especially the creatives and the people who, are in this situation where none of us know when we're going to work again.
Right.
I have no clue.
Right.
But I have no reason not to learn how to do everything else I've wanted to do.
Right. Yeah.
I have no reason to not reach out to other people and do live concerts, pay as you go, or do lessons or teach stuff. I've got 30 some odd years of, I can be a sit-at-home professor.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
Why not? Nobody's going to school, right?
Right. And so you have always had also too, and I just want to bring this up because I know you also, that has a big fitness piece, like that your physical health is also very important to you. And so can you just touch on that a little bit about how that affects you and your day-to-day living?
Absolutely. So that goes directly to what I was just saying. When I'm working out and taking care of myself, again, now I'm 2-3 steps ahead of anything else that could be going on in my life because I feel good. I feel strong. I feel accomplished. And that doesn't mean that I need to be a fitness model or Mr. Olympia or whatever. It just means I'm moving. I'm making sure that no real rust sets in, you know, figuratively. And, you know, it's like, come on, you've got to do something, you know? So yeah, that's always been important to me. I can't go to my gym now, but I did go to the store yesterday and I bought a bunch of fitness bands and, you know, stationary ball, and I've got a weight bench coming and a kettlebell coming. So I'm going to make the best of it. You know, my glass is always at least half full. It's the same glass. So you can look at it however you want to.
Right.
We've got the same glass.
Right. Exactly.
So that's, you know, so fitness is uber important to me.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that our hope is that during this time, people will retain that and not just go to the chips and stuff like that. But yeah, so.
But if you're gonna,
you can have a little bit of it. I'm just thankful that my Cadbury chocolate eggs are gone. My Cadbury chocolate eggs have left the building because I ate them all. So yeah, so that's my thing. I love my sweets. So it's like whatever. I did the same thing. I have a cool little setup in my basement too, but and I'm still able to go outside and do some walking.
Good.
So I still incorporate that, and I want to get back into sprinting. So yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to add? I want to be obviously respectful of your time. And if you want to chat again, I'd be happy to do that. This is a great forum.
You know what I would say to people is literally, and this might sound cliche or whatever, but be nice to people. You know, you don't know what any or everybody else is going through. Like I said at the beginning of this interview, we finished 25 of the 27 shows that we had. So obviously, to some degree, my outlook is in a place where I'm like, okay, I'm good right now. You know, there are other people who are like, uh-oh, I haven't even really started my year yet, and I have no idea. So be nice, be kind to everyone. If you have, whether it's physical goods or just a kind word to somebody, give of yourself freely. This is the time where we can actually learn how to talk to each other.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing. It's just like the other thing that is tripping me out. Now we're learning how to actually wash our hands. It's like, what?
Yeah, right. That's yeah.
So now we have to learn how to talk to each other.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, do it. Just do it, because we need human interaction. Even if it's just this, that's better than sitting in your place by yourself, thinking about all of the things you can't do. You know?
Right. And the compulsions. I mean, that's the thing, is that so long in our life, we've run away from home to do things. And now we're running in, we're staying in. So just that whole image of us moving away from our center, spiritually, you know, just like, so my spiritual practice has definitely shifted in an up way. And so, it's good stuff. Well, I really want to thank you so much, Claude McKnight, for getting on the phone or getting on this call with me. And a lot of people are really going to appreciate your wonderful advice and your beautiful smile. I'll show your bicep.
Oh, well,
come on, what? Look at this
all smoke. It's all smoke in there.
Not bad, Larry. Woo, woo. That's impressive. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you all viewers for tapping in and being a part of this. And just keep your heart open, keep leaning in. And I look forward to sharing this interview and other interviews with you soon. So peace, love, and I will see you again soon. Take good care.